Good morning. We begin today with escalating tensions between the United States and Russia. The Trump administration has positioned two nuclear submarines near Russia following what it described as threatening statements of war from a top Russian security official. This military posturing is coupled with a significant diplomatic and economic ultimatum. President Trump has given Russian President Vladimir Putin a deadline of August 8th to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine. Failure to meet this deadline, the White House warns, will result in the imposition of new, stringent tariffs on Russian goods. This move is a clear signal of the administration's strategy to use economic leverage as a primary tool to achieve its foreign policy goals, putting direct pressure on Moscow's economy. This specific action against Russia is part of a much broader and aggressive trade policy that is now coming into full effect. The administration has finalized new tariffs on more than 60 countries, which are scheduled to activate next week on August 7th. The move comes after an August 1st deadline passed for nations to negotiate new trade deals with the United States. The tariffs are substantial, ranging from 10% to as high as 41% on various imports. The executive order, signed on July 31st, impacts a wide array of global partners, including the 27-member European Union, Taiwan, and even the United Kingdom's self-governing Falkland Islands. In a separate but related action, tariffs on goods imported from neighboring Canada are also set to increase significantly, rising from 25% to 35%. The administration has stated that these measures are designed to protect American industries and workers by rebalancing international trade relationships. However, the sweeping nature of these tariffs has elicited mixed and concerned reactions from affected countries and international manufacturers. While some express hope that this will force new, more favorable deals, many others are bracing for significant disruptions to global supply chains and potential increases in consumer prices. Meanwhile, on the domestic front, the administration is highlighting what it calls a dramatic turnaround in security at the U.S. southern border. New data from the U.S. Border Patrol shows that apprehensions in July fell to a record low. Officials reported a total of just 4,399 apprehensions along the southwest border for the entire month. This figure represents a staggering decrease from the peak of the crisis in December 2023, when Border Patrol recorded nearly 250,000 apprehensions. That surge had placed an intense strain on resources in small border communities for years. To put the change in perspective, July's daily average was about 141 apprehensions, a stark contrast to some days in late 2023 that saw more than 10,000. For the third consecutive month, officials also reported zero releases of apprehended migrants into the country. Republicans and the administration are attributing this sharp decline to a suite of aggressive enforcement policies. As Texas Congressman Morgan Luttrell put it, the border is secure again. As it should be, strong policies equal quiet borders. These policies, implemented since the start of President Trump's second term, include the deployment of troops to the border and the discontinuation of the CBP-1 mobile app, which had been widely used by migrants to schedule appointments to claim asylum. That system has been replaced with a new app, CBP Home, which is designed to facilitate self-deportation. The Department of Homeland Security has also been promoting a program offering a $1,000 payment and free travel to migrants who agree to voluntarily leave the U.S., provided they have not committed other crimes. These efforts are being bolstered by a new spending package, dubbed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which allocates billions in new funding for border security. The funds will also be used to reimburse states for costs incurred during the previous migrant surge and to allow Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, to begin recruiting thousands of new agents. In other policy news from Washington, the Department of Veterans Affairs under Secretary Doug Collins announced today a significant reversal of a Biden-era rule concerning abortion services. The VA is ending a 2022 policy that allowed the agency to provide abortions and abortion counseling to veterans and their beneficiaries. In a memo explaining the decision, the department argued that the previous rule was contrary to federal law and that the reversal brings the VA back in line with long-standing bipartisan precedent. The core of the issue lies in the 1992 Veterans Health Care Act. That law authorized a range of women's health services, including pap smears, mammography, and general reproductive care, but explicitly excluded both infertility services and abortions, except in cases where a pregnancy's health risks were increased by a service-connected condition. The VA's memo states that the Biden administration's change in 2022 was a politically motivated response to the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision, which overturned Roe v. Wade. The department argues that the intent of the Dobbs ruling was to return the authority to regulate abortion to the individual states. According to the VA, the 2022 rule did the exact opposite by creating what it called a purported federal entitlement to abortion for veterans where none had existed before, and did so without regard to state law. The agency noted that for nearly 50 years, Congress has consistently drawn a bright line, restricting federal taxpayer funds from being used for elective abortions across numerous programs, including Medicaid, TRICARE, and the Federal Employee Health Benefits Program. The VA emphasized that its policy reversal will not prevent pregnant veterans from receiving necessary care in life-threatening situations. Finally, there is a notable development from Capitol Hill, where the Senate has taken a significant step to fund the government for the upcoming fiscal year. On Thursday, senators passed a $187 billion spending package, known as a minibus, with overwhelming bipartisan support. The package bundles together several non-controversial appropriation bills, ensuring funding for a range of critical government functions. The legislation covers the Department of Veterans Affairs, ensuring continuity of care for the nation's veterans, as well as the Department of Agriculture and the Food and Drug Administration, which are vital for the nation's food supply and public health safety. It also funds military construction projects, rural development, and the operational expenses of the legislative branch itself. The passage of this package is significant not just for what it funds, but for when it was passed. This marks the first time in several years that the Senate has approved any annual funding legislation before its traditional August recess. This proactive approach is seen as an effort to avoid the high-stakes, last-minute budget battles and threats of government shutdowns that have become common in recent years. The bills were approved in two parts, both with strong bipartisan majorities. The main bill, funding military construction and the VA, agriculture, and the FDA, passed with a vote of 87 to 9. A separate bill to fund the legislative branch passed 81 to 15. The successful passage reflects a rare moment of cooperation in an often divided Washington, ensuring stability for key government services as the new fiscal year approaches.